Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something really interesting based on the sources you sent over about, well, secret wealth. Yeah, we're pulling insights mainly from the analysis over at the Cash Flow Lab channel. And it all circles around this one idea. The person right next to you, maybe it's Starbucks, normal clothes, normal car. They could easily have like 7, 8, maybe even 9 figures tucked away, the really wealthy, often totally invisible. So our mission here is to kind of unpack the habits, the mindset, the lifestyle stuff that sets these discreetly wealthy folks apart. We want to figure out what they do differently because, honestly, understanding that, it feels like a shortcut to building that kind of quiet wealth ourselves.
And what's really key here, I think, is that these behaviors we're going to talk about, they're very much intentional. It's not accidental. You see this clear split. You've got the visibly wealthy who often seem to prioritize, status symbols, looking the part. And then you have the secretly wealthy. Their focus is completely different. It's about maximizing net worth, sure, but maybe even more, maximizing their actual freedom. They're focused on being wealthy, not putting energy into looking wealthy. That's the fundamental difference.
Okay, let's start there with the mindset, because that really seems to be the foundation for everything else, doesn't it? The sources jump right into something they call the 3 E's. These are things the wealthy apparently they avoid talking about. What are these?
Yeah, the 3 E's. It's a really useful framework, I think, to show how committed they are to staying quiet. It stands for earn, expensive, and excess. So first up is earn. The truly quietly wealthy, they just don't talk about how much money they make, period. Think about it. If someone's always bringing up their salary or that big bonus they got or how great their investments are doing, it kind of suggests they're still looking for validation, right? Or they feel like they need to prove something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're already secure. You don't need the applause.
Exactly. The wealthy have sort of already won that game internally. They don't need external scorekeeping.
Okay, so that's earn. The second E, expensive, that seems pretty straightforward, related to buying stuff.
Right. They keep quiet about the big, expensive purchases. The designer bag, the luxury watch, that fancy trip. If you hear someone constantly going on about how much something cost, the analysis suggests they're often trying to get that social return on the purchase.
Like they need the Instagram likes or the nods from friends to feel like spending that money was actually worth it?
Precisely. They need that validation to kind of justify the splurge. The truly wealthy, they make the purchase if it makes sense for them and they just move on. No announcement needed.
And the third E, excess. That sounds like it's about the overall lifestyle picture.
It is. They actively avoid living in, constant outward excess. They understand that real luxury isn't necessarily about the flashy stuff. For them, luxury means having options. It means convenience. It means freedom. Not necessarily a bigger house or a flashier car just for the sake of it. So if you see someone hitting all 3 of these, constantly talking earnings, bragging about expensive things, and living this life of obvious excess, the Cash Flow Lab take is that person probably isn't secretly wealthy.
Okay, but let me just push back on that a little. Isn't there a point where maybe in business, some level of visible success kind of serves as proof? Like legitimate success. How do we tell the difference between this kind of discretion and someone maybe just hiding financial problems?
That's a fair point. I think the difference really comes down to control. The discreetly wealthy are managing their image deliberately for their own benefit and, importantly, for security. They're very aware of human nature. Jealousy, resentment. These things attract negative attention, unwanted scrutiny.
So they actively try to avoid that.
Yeah, they avoid drawing eyes, potentially compromising their safety or just draining their energy dealing with it. When someone asks directly about their finances, they tend to use these vague phrases.
Like what?
Things like, oh, I've done pretty well for myself, or we get by, or just, we're comfortable. Very nonspecific. It limits the information.
Like managing the data leak.
Exactly. There's that anecdote, right, about the guy worth like 9 figures over $100 million. He's having lunch with friends, and apparently they're all billionaires. And he just casually says, I'm poor compared to all my friends.
Wow. Even at that level.
Right. It just shows that comparison is, it's poison at every single level of wealth. Unless maybe you're Elon Musk, there's always someone richer. The takeaway for you, the listener, isn't just that billionaires compare themselves too. It's that you absolutely have to stop comparing your own wealth journey to someone else's highlight reel or their finish line. As the source shows, that finish line just keeps moving anyway.
Okay, so if the mindset is about proving nothing, keeping things quiet, how does that actually show up in their spending? The sources really highlight transportation. It seems like a big one. The idea that the secretly wealthy often drive a reliable but older car, maybe 5, 10 years old, often fully paid off.
Yes, this is where you see that financial intelligence really overrating ego. They get the math, they understand how brutal depreciation is, especially on new cars. Why pay what some call the stupid tax, that massive value drop in the first few years? They let someone else absorb that hit.
And avoiding that big monthly car payment, say $500, $800 a month.
Exactly. Throwing that kind of money away month after month on an asset that's just losing value. It goes against their whole philosophy.
When you think about the opportunity cost too, I mean, if you save that, let's say $9,000 a year and invest it instead.
Over 10 years, with compounding, that single decision, that choice not to buy the fancy new car, could easily add up to over $100,000 in actual investments working for you.
That's significant.
It really is. And the research suggests they look for that value sweet spot, the depreciation curve. It's steep at first, then it flattens out quite a bit after maybe 5 years or around 30,000 miles. They see the car as a tool, gets you from A to B. It's not primarily a status symbol. They'd rather have the $100,000 in the bank than look like they might have it because of their car.
That makes a lot of sense for big-ticket items like cars. But one thing in the source material that really jumped out at me was how they handle the small stuff, the sort of under $100 rule. It seems almost paradoxical, like they can be incredibly frugal on really small purchases.
It reflects this deeply ingrained habit of maximizing value, even on the little things. It's almost like a muscle they keep exercising. So yeah, they might actually spend, say, 20 or 30 minutes researching online, reading reviews, comparing features for like a $20 power bank.
Really? For 20 bucks?
Yeah, because it's a want. There are tons of substitutes, the quality varies, so they want the absolute best value for that small amount. It's about the principle.
But then the paradox is they won't hesitate on a big necessary expense. Like the example given was dropping $15,000 on a new roof if it's needed.
That's the crucial difference, right? The power bank is a discretionary want. They can take their time, optimize the value, maybe even decide they don't need it. The roof, that's an urgent need. It's structural. It protects a major asset, their home. In that case, the priority shifts.
To what?
To getting it done right, getting it done quickly. Time becomes more valuable than haggling over a small discount. They prioritize decisive action and quality for necessities.
So the small-scale frugality isn't about being cheap. It's a habit.
Exactly. It's an ingrained habit practiced daily that adds up to huge savings over decades. It's non-negotiable for them on those small, non-essential wants.
Okay, so if they're frugal on small wants and practical about big needs like cars and roofs, where do the secretly wealthy actually spend significant money? The research points towards things most people wouldn't immediately label as luxury.
That's right. They invest heavily in the one resource you absolutely cannot make more of: time. They are often willing to spend, sometimes quite a lot, to buy back their own time. And the key thing is, these are usually invisible expenses. They don't scream status.
Can you give us a clearer sense of that, like the return on investment, the ROI of buying back time?
Oh, absolutely. The ROI isn't just about, feeling less stressed or having more leisure time, though that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's about leverage. Think about it. If paying for, say, a private chef or meal prep service saves someone 10 hours a week, that's 10 hours they didn't spend shopping, cooking, cleaning up. Those 10 hours can then be put into managing their investments, focusing on their core business, strategic thinking, networking, or even just resting and recharging so they're more effective.
So the cost of the service is outweighed by the value of the freed up time.
Often, yes. The financial leverage they gain from outsourcing time-consuming tasks, whether it's chores, complicated travel logistics, research, can far exceed the actual cost. And like you said, it's invisible. You wouldn't know someone has household help or uses private travel to skip airport lines unless you were watching them 24/7.
So their luxury isn't a big visible thing like a yacht, necessarily. It's more about that internal freedom and leverage created by these services.
And it's also about differentiation, right? The sources say they're not really interested in keeping up with the Joneses.
Not at all. In fact, they seem to actively seek uniqueness. Why buy the same luxury car or watch that thousands of other people have, which usually starts losing value immediately? Instead, if they do splurge, it's often on rare collectible items, things that might actually hold or even increase in value.
Like what kind of things? Think fine wine collections, rare art, maybe unique historical artifacts or high-end collectibles. It's partly diversifying into what you might call passion investments.
So it's still an investment, just a different kind.
In a way, yes. It contrasts sharply with buying depreciating status symbols. Owning something truly rare sets them apart completely, rather than just putting them in the same category as others.
Okay, moving from spending to actually accumulating wealth.
Yeah.
The last big behavioral sign seems to be about patience, this mastery of delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification. If there's one superpower for building wealth, especially later in life, this is probably it. They are incredibly patient, especially with major purchases that aren't urgent needs. They'll research something for months.
Months.
Yeah, easily. They'll wait for the absolute perfect timing, maybe a genuine sale, not just a made-up one. Or, quite often, after all that waiting and thinking, they just decide they don't actually need the item after all. The urge has passed.
They understand that most retail sales are just marketing tactics.
Pretty much. They know that the discount is often based on an inflated initial price set by the retailer specifically to make the sale price look good and trigger impulse buys.
So for our listener, someone who maybe struggles with hitting buy now too quickly, what's the practical step here?
Implement a cooling off period, a mandatory pause. If you're thinking about a significant non-essential purchase, just wait. Wait at least 7 days, maybe even 30 days for really big things. Then ask yourself honestly, do I still want this just as much? Has the initial excitement worn off? Is there a cheaper alternative that does the same job?
It takes discipline.
It does. Most people find it hard to delay gratification for even 24 hours. The secretly wealthy are often thinking in terms of years, even decades. That long-term perspective, that patience, is absolutely fundamental to letting compound growth work its magic.
Right. Okay, last major area. Lifestyle, specifically the home.
Yeah.
The research consistently points to the secretly wealthy living in, well, modest homes, often way below what they could technically afford, maybe even owning it outright.
Yes, and this ties back directly to that theme of freedom and minimizing liabilities. A more modest home just means less financial burden, less upkeep, less headache. Think about a huge, lavish mansion. It doesn't just cost more to buy, it demands constant feeding.
Feeding.
Yeah, you need cleaners, landscapers, pool maintenance, higher taxes, higher insurance, maybe even security. It consumes time, energy, and capital on an ongoing basis. Plus, there's often that subtle or not so subtle social pressure to keep everything looking perfect for neighbors, for family. It can become a trap.
So they're essentially choosing to free up their capital and their time rather than tying it all up in an oversized, demanding asset.
Precisely. They avoid getting caught in that cycle of having to constantly work just to feed the needs of the expensive things they've bought. They want their assets working for them, not the other way around.
There was a great little summary in the source material about the 3 levels of rich related to mowing the lawn. I thought it captured this perfectly.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It's pretty neat. Level 1. You cut your own grass because you don't have the money to pay someone.
Right. Level 2, you pay someone else to cut your grass because now you have some money and your time is maybe more valuable doing other things.
And then the ultimate, level 3.
You're cutting your own grass again. But this time, it's because you're retired, you have total financial freedom, you have all the time you want, and you're doing it simply because you enjoy it.
Exactly. It shows the goal isn't just the pile of money. The goal is leveraging that money to live a life you actually want to live on your own terms. And often achieving that freedom is best done quietly without broadcasting the success. That really brings it all together. Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive on the invisible millionaire. The big theme seems to be that real sustainable wealth is often quiet. It's built on patience, on really strategic spending that values time above almost anything else, and crucially, avoiding that whole trap of needing to prove yourself to other people. That invisibility becomes like a strategic advantage, doesn't it? It lets you focus all your resources on actually compounding your net worth.
Absolutely. It boils down to that choice. Do you want to focus your energy and money on being wealthy or on looking wealthy? They're often two very different paths. So if you take one thing away from our chat today, maybe just reflect on your own habits. Where are you spending money primarily to buy back time or convenience things that create leverage? And where might you be spending mostly for appearances, trying to get that social validation from something that might actually be holding you back financially? It's worth thinking about.
Fantastic points. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, definitely check out the original analysis from Cashflow Lab. And please subscribe or follow us for more deep dives like this one. We'll leave you with one final thought to chew on, building on that idea that time is the only resource we truly can't get more of. If you really adopted that invisible millionaire mindset starting today, what's one small thing you could outsource this week? Maybe a delivery fee, a cleaning task, a subscription that saves research time. What small expense could buy you back just 1 hour? And what could you do with that hour? Think about the ROI. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.